Well, greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome back to today's second half. Before we get into Dogman, Bigfoot, Werewolf, and Wild Man Historic Experiences in the Media, Part 8, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and my merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. The links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. My merch is displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. And, finally, if you'd really like to help this channel to continue to grow and go, it's as simple as subscribing and clicking the like button. Why not? It's fast and free. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with today's second half. Shall we? Source, the New York Times, New York, USA, August 17th, 1879. The Wild Man of Newfield, a mysterious woodsman who shoots at folks and likes euchre. Newfield, New York, August 17th, 1879. Newfield has come to the front with a hairy wild man so awful, mysterious, and formidable that he opens up a new field of thought and investigation. He has been seen by some of the most unimpeachable residents of and visitors to the South Section. He is described as over 6 feet tall, clad in rough and scanty attire, and wearing a grisly beard that reaches almost to his knees. Although he has chased several fishermen who have invaded his secluded domain in quest of brook trout, and shot at a peaceable farmer near Newfield Station, no active stops have been made toward his capture, and yet he roams at large. His latest and most daring exploit occurred about last week, when he left the gloom of the forest and actually entered an occupied dwelling in broad daylight. Large and heavy is the wild man. He glides so swiftly and silently that he frequently is at hand before his coming is even observed. In this silent, ghost-like manner, he is said to have floated into the house of a farmer named Payne. The farmer and 3 companions were engaged in an interesting game of euchre, it's a card game, and were not aware of the wild man's company until Payne felt something bushy touching the back of his head. When he looked up, he found it to be a great beard of a strange hermit. Payne jumped to his feet and would have struck the silent visitor with a chair, but he avoided the blow, and with mysterious steps made his way to an adjoining room and stretched himself upon a bed. Payne followed him and again raised the chair to strike him, but again he seemed to glide from beneath it, and this time he made his exit through a window by gliding snake-like motion, but as silent as a wreath of smoke ascends to the blue other. The farmer watched him and saw him leave his premise and enter a patch of woods nearby, and supposed he had disappeared for good. By daring, the evening of that same day he returned and was seen standing under a tree near the house, as though deliberating whether to enter the dwelling. After standing there a short time, he turned around and suddenly ran rapidly back to the woods. The next day, one of the farmer's cows strayed away, and he started off and looked for it. Shortly after he left the house, his family heard a sharp report of a rifle, and in a few moments back came Payne, pale and breathless, and well nigh done for. As soon as he could set the machinery of speech in motion, he described in graphic language the cause of his excitement. It was an encounter with the wild man. He said he was walking through a small clearing calling, "Caboss, caboss," when without warning he heard a rifle discharged close by and felt the wind of the bullet as it whistled over his forehead, through the rim of his felt hat, and through his erect hair. He fell flat upon the ground, partially stunned, and it was well he did, for the wild man, thinking his first shot had proved fatal, shouldered his piece and strode off into the underbrush. This strange episode is at present the theme uppermost all throughout the south section, and it is said that a posse of hunters are preparing to track the wild man and, if possible, effect his capture, alive or dead. The Daily Evening Bulletin, San Francisco, California, August 26, 1879. A reported wild man, San Francisco, California, August 26, 1879. On Saturday, August 23rd, we met a gentleman who lives on the west side of San Joaquin, about 7 miles west of Hills Ferry, who made the following statement. While in the Coast Range, about 10 days ago hunting, he and his companion camped on the side of the ravine near the summit of the range. In the morning, they discovered a smoke lower down the ravine, and upon going out upon the side of the hill to ascertain the origin of it, they discovered the object which puzzled them to name, and as their curiosity became excited, they crept carefully towards it in order to satisfy themselves what kind of animal they had discovered. By creeping upon the ground, they were able to approach within 100 yards, when, to their astonishment, they found that the object which they had approached with the intention of shooting was a man, perfectly nude but covered from head to toe, with the most remarkable growth of hair. The hair upon his head and his beard were very long, reaching to his waist, while his body, arms, and limbs were protected by the same natural covering. Hoping to approach and capture this strange being, they attempt to creep nearer, but they took alarm and rapidly ran away, jumping over the bushes in his path like a deer. The two gentlemen decided to remain and camp in the same locality the second night, and they again were rewarded by a sight of the strange being. They were awakened in the night by a sound resembling that caused by striking a flint upon steel, and upon advancing in the direction of the sound, they saw the same object, who appeared to be striking two flinty rocks together. On their approach, he again took alarm and ran away. We have heard reports of a wild man in that vicinity for several years past, but the gentleman who makes this statement is the only one we have ever seen who vouches for the truth of this report. The gentleman is well known to us, and he asserted that he and his companion were willing to make an oath of truth of the statement. Stockton Independent, August 25th. The New York Times, New York, USA, October 18th, 1879. A wild man of the mountains, two young Vermont hunters terribly scared. Pownell, Vermont, October 17th, 1879. Much excitement prevailed among the sportsmen of this vicinity over the story that a wild man has been seen on Friday last by two young men while hunting in the mountain south of Williamstown. The young man described the creature as being about 5 feet in height, resembling a man in form and movement, but covered all over with bright red hair, and having a long, straggly beard, and with very wild eyes. When first seen, the creature sprang from behind a rocky cliff and started for the woods nearby, when, mistaking it for a bear or another wild animal, one of the men fired, and, it is thought, wounded it, for with fierce cries of pain and rage it turned on its assailants, driving them before it at high speed. They lost their guns and ammunition in their flight, and dared not return for fear of encountering the strange being. There is an old story told many years ago of a strange animal frequently seen among the range of the Green Mountains, resembling a man in appearance, but so wild that no one could approach it near enough to tell what it was or where it dwelt. From time to time, hunting parties in the early days of the town used to go out in pursuit of it, but in the late years no trace of it had been seen. And this story told by the young men who claimed to have seen it revives again the old story of the wild man of the mountains. There is talk of making up a party to go in search of the creature. The Philadelphia Times, Pennsylvania, USA, and the Evening Gazette, Port Jervis, New York, USA, November 20th, 1879. Hunting a wild man, a strange being said to be in Wayne County woods, the curious person that two hunters found while hunting deer. A man nearly naked and his skin black with dirt, an escaped lunatic. Starcola, Pennsylvania, November 13th, 1879. Much of the upper part of Wayne County is still an unbroken wilderness and a resort for hunters from all parts of the country. Charles Ames and Frank Albine of Rochester, New York, had been camping near Upper Woods Pond during the past week. On Monday, they were driving a ridge for deer. Their dogs worked off the ridge to the edge of the dense laurel swamp. Ames was standing at the foot of the ridge on a runway. Pointed out to him by his guide, the yelping of the hounds and commotion in the swamp put Ames on his mettle, as he supposed a deer was about to leap out into the open space and give him a chance for a shot. His gun was raised, ready to fire, when to his surprise he saw a human being spring from the brush and rapidly run across the opening toward the mountains. He ran in a stooped position and helped himself along a dexterous parting of the thick scrub oak with his hands. His head was bare, and his long hair, the opening across which he ran, was several rods wide where the thick timber began. The strange being ran so fast that the hunter had very little time to note his appearance, but he saw that he was scantily clad. Pursuing the wild man, Ames was so startled for the time that the man had reached the woods before the hunter had recovered himself. Then he resolved to follow the wild man as he believed the thing to be, and, if possible, capture him. Shouting to Olivine and the guide, the three started in pursuit. The guide said that a man answering the description of this one had been seen before in that region by wood choppers, but not over a year. For some distance the hunters proceeded cautiously through the woods, but saw no trace of the object of their search. The dogs could not be made to take trail. Finally the hunters stopped on a brow of the ridge and concluded to abandon the hunt. One of the dogs had gone off a short distance, and his barking attracted the attention of the men. They walked in the direction of the noise and discovered the wild man crouched in a limb of the tree, near the trunk, and about 8 feet from the ground. As the hunters approached, he nimbly swung himself to the ground and ran off into the woods. The guide said he had not realized what the consequences would have been if he had killed the man. The hunters were now more than ever determined to come up with a singular creature they had unearthed. They followed in the direction he had taken until they came upon a place where the underbrush was almost impenetrable, and as it extended a long distance up and down, they naturally concluded that the wild man had entered the thicket. They were not long in doubt, for as they walked along the edge of it, trying to find a place where he might have entered, he bounded out again within a short distance of Olivine. The latter ran toward him, and the grisly creature stood still, as if he had given up the idea of escape. When the hunter drew close enough to touch the wild man, the latter turned and walked toward the thicket again. Olivine sprang forward and caught a hold of the man's shoulders, which were naked. Quick as a cat, he turned and clasped Olivine about the hips. Raising the hunter from the ground, he threw him heavily head first into the underbrush. Olivine maintained his hold, and the wild man fell with him into the thicket, but in an instant was back on his feet again, and tearing loose from the hunter, ran back into the woods. Ames and the guide were but 100 feet distant, But so quickly had the encounter began and ended, it was over before they reached the spot. Olivine received the sprained wrist, some bad scratches, and a badly bruised side from the severe fall. But the hunt for the wild man continued for 2 more hours. All efforts to obtain further trace of him failed. Olivine says that the man was nearly naked. The covering that he had was remnants of a corduroy suit. His skin was hard and blacked with dirt. His whiskers and hair were long, mixed with gray, and matted and entangled with twigs and briar. During the struggle in the brush, he made 2 or 3 exclamations that were unintelligible to Olivine. What is believed to have been the same man was captured 2 years ago near Damascus. The man escaped custody while en route to the asylum. That his unfortunate creature had managed to maintain an existence in the forest of Wayne County for 2 more years does not seem possible, but such is now believed to be the case. An effort will be made to capture him and have him again taken to the asylum. Source: John Green, 1981, Sasquatch, The Apes Among Us. Originally coming to us from Percy Aberhart, Treasure Tales of the Rockies. Lake Creek Monster seen, Grizzly Peak, Colorado, circa 1881. Several miners in this vicinity have reported seeing what has been termed the Lake Creek Monster. This creature is said to resemble a man except for the extraordinary length of his arms and a long, shaggy fur that covers his body. The Marion Daily Star, Ohio, May 23, 1881. Mysterious Beast, Florida, New York, May 23, 1881. A mysterious beast reported to be 8 feet in height is said to occupy a cave on Mr. Green's farm at Florida, New York, making nocturnal raids and killing farm animals. The Freeburn County Standard, Albert Lea, Minnesota, USA, June 9, 1881. A Wild Man Resurrected, Florida, New York, June 9, 1881. On the farm of William D. Green on the road from the village of Florida to Glenmore Lake, not far from here, is a cave inhabited by a nondescript, somewhat partaking of a human form. Some time ago, this animal was seen by 2 men named Armstrong and Sullivan, who were at work in the field near the cave. It so much resembled a human being that Armstrong, who was eating his lunch, asked it to take a piece of bread, whereupon it gritted its teeth and fled to the cave, remaining in sight only a few seconds. Several persons have endeavored to enter it, but without success. All who have seen it describe it as being covered with long, shaggy hair. A few days ago, Ira Seabolt, a well-known hunter, chanced to pass the cave and saw the animal lying at length upon a stone wall and shot at it when, with a mingled cry of rage and pain, it leapt from the wall and fled to the cave. Mr. Green, on whose farm the cave is located, now has a quantity of hair about 8 inches long, which was cut from the body of the creature by Seabolt's shot. The creature walks half upright and prowls considerably at night, making unearthly noises. There are a variety of conjectures as to what this thing is. There is not a man in the entire section who could be induced to enter that cave under any consideration. The entrance to the cave is small, but it is said to have a very large interior. Many people believe the creature who inhabits this cave is a wild man, and a watch is being kept over the mouth of the den to see what manner of creature this really is. The affair has created much excitement and considerable nervousness in this section, and the developments are anxiously awaited. People will not travel the road near where the cave is located, and Mr. Green could not sell his otherwise valuable farm for $1 an acre at present on account of the superstition prevailing among the country people. Emmitsburg, Ohio, June 11th, 1881. A mysterious beast, Emmitsburg, Ohio, June 11th, 1881. Orange County, New York is greatly excited about a mysterious beast which is said to make nocturnal raids around a neighborhood. There is only one person, a Negro, who will swear he has seen the strange creature, but there are scores of persons who claim to have seen evidence of his depredations on adjoining farms, and to have heard his unearthly screams and startled by the approach of men. The Negro says that he suddenly met with it at the mouth of the cave on the farm of Mr. Green, and that it stood erect to a height of 7 or 8 feet, screeched so loudly it frightened him, and he fainted. When he had regained his senses, the animal was gone. Parties have explored the mouth of the cave on Green's farm, and while they claim to have discovered evidence of the whereabouts of some strange animal, they have failed to come up with it. It is said that a dead dog, with his back broken, was found near the mouth of the cave, and part of the sheep's skin and entrails were also close to the entrance. A party is being organized to search for it and the strange animal, but the Negro will not be part of the party. The Daily Patriot, Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, Canada, June 28, 1881. A singular animal, Red Bank, New Brunswick, June 28, 1881. Quite a sensation was caused last week in the vicinity of Red Bank by the appearance of a strange and terrifying animal, which those who have seen it described it as a gorilla. It was first seen on Tuesday the 14th. About 3 miles from Red Bank on the south side of the Little Southwest River, by Messenger Benjamin Hubbard of Red Bank, Thomas Muse of Nelson, and another man whose name we have not learned. It was seen again on last Thursday near the same place by Mr. James Powers, blacksmith of Red Bank, whose horse took fright of it. Mr. Hubbard was quite near to the creature, and it shouted at it. Upon it turned about in an ungainly kind of way and ran off on all fours. It is described as being about 7 feet tall, long arms and legs, running on all fours. The head is dark in color. The face has the features resembling those of a human. The body is a lighter color and covered with fur. When Mr. Hubbard shouted at the animal, it threw one of its hands towards him in a laddered kind of motion, overlapping the foreleg and arm, and twisted his body after it and went off in a slouching manner. It was observed that the creature had no tail, in fact, which gives color to superstition that the animal is of the gorilla family. Professor Grout described the gorilla, says it has no more tail than a professor, while the knowledge that monkeys have tails and the idea of the external appendages are a badge of a general monkeyhood are deeply rooted in popular mind. But the apes are tailless as man, and no more so. What? That was so... I did not mess any of that up. That's how they wrote that really strange news article in 1881. The Bucks County Gazette, Bristol, Pennsylvania, USA, August 25th, 1881. Hairy naked wild man found, refuses clothing. Tiflis, Armenia, August 25th, 1881. A wild man of the woods has been discovered in the forests near here. He is a human being, apparently, but speaks no language. When found, he was entirely naked, his body, limbs, and face being covered with fur. His nationality is unknown, and he seems incapable of uttering articulate sounds. It is likely to remain so. An attempt to clothe him met with no success, for he tore the things off with savage energy. All right, my friends, that is part 8 of Dogman, Bigfoot, Werewolf, and Wild Man, historic experiences in the media. I hope you guys are enjoying this kind of historic cryptid, gosh, I don't really know what to call it. I just hope you guys are enjoying these uploads, because I'm enjoying them, minus the writing on some of them. It's kind of hard to get used to some of the wording and stuff like that. But other than that, it's very interesting. And, we've had I've liked them all, but some of my favorites have been the Mark Twain and the Buffalo Bill, Wild Bill Cody one, which, like I said, I've got a ton more of these. So I really do hope you guys are enjoying them. And with that, I want to thank you all for your support, and may the Great Spirit watch over us all, and may He guide us down that path that we call life.